Hi, I'm Dr. Karin Drummond doing my weekly Facebook Live, loving my new board. I've got my next 5 weeks planned because my biggest pet peeve is when people come in saying that they're doing something thinking that it's very good for them, like they're not eating something or they're taking a supplement, and I'm telling them no, it's actually not good for you. So I thought I'd debunk some myths. The first week today I'm going to talk about fats. Next week will be about sugars. Then I'll talk about salts, proteins, and vitamins. So again, today is about fats. A lot of people think, oh, I need to do a low-fat diet to lose weight. And a lot of people now are understanding, especially with diets like the ketogenic diet where it's mostly fat, or the Atkins diet, which is low carb but okay with fats, that they're realizing fats are not what make you gain weight. In fact, we need fats. We need fats to absorb fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K. And all those are essential for well-being. And the fact that we're living north of Florida, most of us don't get enough sunshine, so we need to eat vitamin D, and not just eat it, but also absorb it, so we need to eat fats. The problem with fats is there's good fats and there's bad fats. The good fats are things like unsaturated fats. Most people would agree, oh, those are good for you. Those are your avocados, those are your extra virgin olive oil fats. But what a lot of people don't realize is we also need saturated fats. But the thing is, you need to make sure the source is good. Things like coconut oil. Even butter is good for you. Just make sure when you buy your butter that it is organic and that the cows were raised on pasture. Because when cows eat grass, their milk is a lot healthier for us. So the butter is a lot healthier. Things like vitamin K2, that's an essential vitamin. And it's deficient in a lot of our foods. So we need healthy butter. The problem is most of our butter comes from cows that just eat corn, and corn's not good for us, not good for them, not good for us to eat their milk. So, and everyone can agree that the worst kind of fats are the trans fats. They are super bad. They are from your things like fake butters, your spreadable butters that aren't butter. They're things like margarine. And I remember the days when I grew up that I thought butter was bad and margarine's good, when really we're finding out it is not good. It's full of trans fats. Your palm oils are full of trans fats. So really bring those down to the least amount you can. I mean, I don't eat that stuff at all. So hopefully this helps you understand that we need good fat and we need to avoid bad fat. And then you'll be healthier for it. And that's the Drummond difference, is we're all about educating our patients, not just getting them moving well, but sleeping well and eating well. And eating well, there's so much misinformation out there, so hopefully I can help debunk some of that stuff. I hope most of us understand that eating too much sugar is just unhealthy. So what are some alternatives that we can do? Personally, my favorite, that's why I started, is honey. Just make sure that when you get your honey, that is from a local source. If you want it to help with your seasonal allergies, the hive has to be within 25 miles as the crow flies from your home. And if you work in a very farther than that from your home, then you'll have to get 2 sources of honey to cover all the antigens that are in the air. If you buy your honey from a store, chances are it's not even honey. What they do is they'll say 100% natural, and then they'll say honey. And the fact is, it's 100% natural corn syrup, and they'll put some honey in it and call it 100% natural honey. See the difference? Another way to check to see if your honey is actually honey is if it sits on your counter for a couple of weeks, it should get crystallized and harden. If your honey stays loose and liquidy for months, it is not honey. Honey does crystallize over time, especially at room temperature. The good news with natural honey is when it does crystallize, you just put it in a bowl of warm water. Make sure the water doesn't get in your container, obviously, and it'll liquefy right back up. Maple syrup, believe it or not, can be good for you. It has really complex carbs in it and fibers that are good for the flora in our gut, where maple syrup is not good for you. Again, if you buy it from the store, often it's maple flavored corn syrup. So make sure you're getting actual maple syrup. And again, in moderation. Stevia is a high sweet to calorie alternative. The problem for me is I find it's a little on the too sweet side, and then it can mess with your taste buds, making other foods not taste as sweet. Good for you foods like vegetables, carrots should taste really sweet. When you have stevia, carrots are not going to taste sweet, and so you're not likely to eat them. So that can have a negative consequence on your food choices. Agave, Again, it's natural, so it's not like I avoid it, but I don't use it necessarily as a replacement because it's high in fructose and it has a high calorie per serving. So I'm not against them. I'm just letting you know if you're looking for replacements, the best would be honey. Now, if you take nothing else away, if you do artificial sweeteners, please stop. They are definitely bad for you. And if you're doing them thinking you're gonna lose weight, the ironic thing is they've been shown that most people gain weight when they add artificial sweeteners to their diet. Again, it could be because we're messing with their sweet taste buds, but regardless, it's a chemical. How can a chemical be good for you? So please stop using artificial sweeteners, if nothing else. I'd rather you use real sugar. But if you can, local honey is the best. This week we're going to be talking about salts and dispelling some myths, because most people would say salts are so bad for you, and the truth is every cell in our body needs salt. The problem is when we eat too much. Just like anything, you eat too much of anything and it's generally not a good idea. And another reason why salts have a bad name is because most table salt is literally purified salt, where they take out all the impurities and leave NaCl, which is sodium chloride, then refortify it with iodine, because most of us are deficient in iodine unless we eat iodine-rich food like seaweed, and then they add silicon dioxide. They can't do more than 2% silicon dioxide, but in that quantity it's considered food safe. The problem is it might contain nano-sized particles which can cross barriers and get into our cells, and then that can have some health consequences. So if it's manufactured properly, this should be safe. But personally, I avoid table salt. Now, when you eat out, generally speaking, you're going to be having table salt, and I trust that my body can process the little table salt that I'm exposed to. But at home, I use sea salt. And the reason why I use sea salt is because it still has the impurities. Most of it, like over 80% of sea salt, is sodium chloride, but it also has some sulfate in it, and a little bit of magnesium, calcium, and potassium, and a few other minerals. And you notice these three, like if you suffer from leg cramps or any kind of cramping, that they tell you, oh, try eating a banana, that has potassium, or try taking some magnesium or some calcium. These are the minerals you need to keep that balance of the sodium chloride. So I tell people who suffer with cramps, try taking a glass of water and throwing a pinch of sea salt in that water and drinking it, and that cramp should be gone. I have people that would suffer terribly from cramps and started doing that every morning or every night depending on their schedule, and don't suffer from cramps anymore. So salt is very imperative to our health. It's the type of salt and the amount of salt that determines how healthy it is for you. So today's a little more controversial because, again, I'm going to be talking about proteins, and we're going to be talking about to eat or not to eat things like meat. I have a lot of vegetarian friends out there. I was vegetarian for 9 years, but for me and my active lifestyle, I just found it was really hard to make sure I got enough protein in my diet. And plus, you need to make sure that you have all 9 essential amino acids in your diet. If you don't eat any of the essential amino acids, you will have negative health consequences, because our body can't make these amino acids. You literally have to eat it, and we need them for the building blocks for things like our immune system. In fact, it's cold and flu season. I would increase your L-lysine right now because that's really good for your immune system. But you can get all 9 amino acids from a plant-based diet. There are foods like soy, quinoa, buckwheat. They have all 9 essential amino acids. And if you mix and match your plants, then you're going to get the 9 amino acids that you need. You just have to make sure you get enough of it. One thing I want to say that we should not eat, in my biased opinion, is protein powder. Remember when I talked about fats and how us humans made a better butter and spreadable, and then we found out it's not better than butter. Sugars, we made artificial sugars so we can lose weight and have our sweet tooth satisfied, and then we find out later, yeah, artificial sweeteners are not healthy for us, and if anything, they make us gain weight. And salts, we have this purified table salt fortified with iodine, and sea salt is actually, if it's from a good source, healthier for us because of the micro minerals.
And now I'm saying with proteins, we have man-made processed proteins that we can dump into our food in the morning, like in shakes, or we can grab a protein bar for that extra protein. And I'm telling you, I honestly believe the best place to get your source of nutrients is from food. So personally, I eat organic meat and have eggs and dairy because I find it's healthier.
I'm going to be talking about vitamins today because yes, they can be bad for you. I talked about vitamins in the beginning when I talked about fats because some vitamins are fat soluble and you need fat, you need to eat fat to absorb these vitamins. But like fats and sugars and salts and proteins, I talked about how important it is to get it from natural sources. The same is for vitamins. And the reason that is, the analogy I use is hands. Stay with me here, you'll understand this in a second. Plants make vitamins from the ground up, basically. It's like growing a plant. The same with making vitamins with biochemical reactions. When man makes vitamins, the analogy I use is like they put fingers and thumbs in a vat and they come up with right hands and left hands. Unlike plants, they just make the right hand. How does that affect you when you take man-made vitamins that have both? Well, when vitamins interact in the body, think of a key and lock mechanism and pretend this is a hand pad for a lock to get in. You put your hand on that pad. This is my right hand, and it fits, it works. Now the left hand, even if it was exactly the same as the right hand, it is a mirror image. We call that an isomer when the mirror image is not the same, because now if I take my left hand and place it on that lock, it's not going to work. I cannot make that hand work with that lock, and that's why it's unhealthy to eat man-made vitamins because it has the left hand version as well, and that could interfere with the right hand working in the body. So to tell if your vitamin has the wrong kind of isomer, look at the label. If the vitamin E is the easiest one to find because it has alpha tocopherol, and the right hand version is the D version of it. The left hand version would have D and L, because remember, I can't just make one or the other, so it'd be DL alpha tocopherol. So if it has DL, don't even finish taking it, that vitamin is bad for you. And that also you have to worry about is a lot of vitamins don't even have what they say is in there. I also stay away from labels that I call label dressing, where they say this vitamin's good for you if you're elderly, or if you are pregnant, or if you are having eye problems. A lot of these don't have a therapeutic dosage of what you're looking for, and it's best to talk with a healthcare professional that is well versed in supplements and can get it from a reliable source. And then another thing I want to talk about is the type of pills. If it's in a white format and it's all hard pressed, chances are when you eat that, you're just going to be pooping it out. You're not going to get it in your system. And I have had people that say when they've taken a vitamin I've suggested, they said, well, it changed my urine, so obviously I'm just peeing it out. Well, for it to get into your urine, it had to go through your digestive system, into your bloodstream, and to the kidney to be urinated out. So you did get that vitamin, you just had more than you needed, and you urinated out the excess. So that's actually a good sign. I prefer taking my vitamin or my supplements either in a liquid format is the best because it's usually absorbed the best, or in a capsule that easily breaks down. There's a few exceptions, but in tablet form, those are generally not the way to take it.
Hi, are you wondering if your supplements are worth the money, or worse, that they're actually not even good for you? Then this Facebook Live is for you. I'm Dr. Karin Drummond, owner of Drummond Chiropractic. I'm aiming to do weekly Facebook Lives to share my wealth of health information. And as always, before you follow any advice from any video, make sure you verify that it's appropriate for you with your healthcare provider. Hopefully that's one of us here at Drummond Chiropractic. And if you like our content, please let us know by clicking the like button below. So I'm going to be talking about supplements today, and we're going to start off with vitamins. And you want to make sure your vitamins are from a natural source. So I'm going to share with you some information on how to determine if your supplement is actually from a natural source or if it's synthetic, because a lot of times synthetic versions are actually unhealthy for you. So let's start with vitamin B12. There are many versions of vitamin B12. The one you want to avoid is the cyanocobalamin, which I'm going to mispronounce, versus the methylcobalamin. The difference between these two is you have to cleave and break up the synthetic version of vitamin B12 to make it bioavailable. So the best is just to start off with a plant-based one. So when you get a vitamin, you want to make sure it doesn't just say vitamin B12. You want to make sure it has this written out. If it just says vitamin B12, chances are it's the cheaper synthetic version. There's also vitamin E. I've talked about vitamin E in the past. It's one of the most easiest way to determine if your vitamin comes from plants. Because again, if it just says vitamin E, chances are it's a synthetic version. But if it says specifically it's D-alpha-tocopherol, that's the natural version, because when man makes vitamin E, it makes two versions, the D and the L version. So the way to remember it, you don't have to remember all these fancy words. Just remember L is for liar. That is the bad vitamin E. It'll actually stop the good vitamin E from getting into your body. For vitamin D, you want to make sure you're getting the D3 and avoiding the D2. The synthetic version of vitamin D actually comes from lanolin, which comes from the wool of sheep. How is that healthy? It's actually missing sulfate molecules, which can lead to hardening of the arteries, which can lead to stroke and even death and heart attacks. You want to avoid the bad vitamin E, you want to have the good vitamin D. I'm also going to talk about energy drinks and protein bars. For a lot of the sport drinks out there, look at the ingredients. Oftentimes it's corn syrup and table salt, natural or artificial flavors. But how can this be healthy for anybody, let alone an athlete? So really look at the ingredients. Just because it says it's a sport drink or a healthy drink doesn't mean it is healthy. And again, with healthy cereals, make sure it's not full of preservatives. And how is food coloring healthy anything? And protein bars, I've said this before too, I'm not a fan of protein shakes or protein powders. If you need protein, get it from a natural source. Meat's a good source, nuts are a good source. So nothing is better than a natural source of food. Now, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's healthy. Remember, arsenic's natural too, so make sure you understand the ingredients of anything you eat. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please share with others. And next week, we're going to be talking about startling facts about cholesterol. So until next time, stay well.